I can see your logic beginning to look like that of a really skilled, sort of competent poker player. Not in every spot, and there's still some stuff left to be desired. There's still some passivity there where it shouldn't be. But man, what a journey, guys. If you need a reminder of what Mark used to be like, go back and check out like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. You could even do that, Mark. Go back and look at your former self and get that lovely relief that that's no longer you, because my God, we were so passive. We were so sticky. We weren't hand reading at all. And we were just basically playing like a fish. And now we're playing like a seasoned poker player. Ladies and gents, welcome to another video here at Carrot Corner Education. This is From Losing to Cruising, episode something. And in this episode, we are going to be sending Mark off. Mark is the bird in my hand, and I'm going to be releasing him into the wild today. And Mark is going to be off in the wild for about a month or two, doing battle. As any good sort of, service would go in poker teaching, eventually the student is able to fend for themselves. Like if you're having coaching once a week for your entire life, like maybe the coaching isn't working. Like maybe at some point we should be able to say, off you go make some money. Come back here and we'll move on to the next phase once you've done that. So we will check back in with Mark in about 6 weeks, but for today, let's go over some more hands and let's talk about the most important things, Mark, for you to get in place to succeed during this period where you don't have these sessions as regularly, and maybe some hazards, like what could go right, what could go wrong. Any thoughts on one thing that you really need to stay mindful of, that you really need to do, and maybe one thing that could be a danger that you should try and avoid doing for this journey? I know that you weren't expecting that question, but I thought I'd spring it upon you and see what you think about this.
I think one danger would be that I go back into sort of autopilot mode. So I have that is a risk for me, that I go to autopilot and stop thinking about the things that I need to do to adjust my game, and then fall back into habits. So that's probably a big one. And the second one would be that I'm not rigorous enough on the goals that I talked about last week, about the in the last session, particularly around the studying of the material that I know I need to work on. And if the past has taught me anything, is that sometimes I have a tendency just to go, I'll play instead. So there are two risks, but I have an accountability partner and we've agreed to keep each other in check, so I'm hoping that that'll help.
I think that's great. An accountability partner is definitely a really good thing these days, where we live in this age where the slightest lack of willpower can just allow you to be grabbed by any number of distractions and other ways you could be spending your time on your computer. So I definitely think that's great, and it will keep you on the straight and narrow in poker, hopefully. Yeah, I agree with everything you've said, and I think it's really important to do that, to say, I've set goals, I feel really charged, I feel really like I'm full of inspiration to achieve them. But what are some of the things that nevertheless, despite my best intent and best motivation, could go wrong, could sidetrack me? And yeah, keep thinking about what other dangers there may be, what other snakes there may be in the grass. Okay, deuces. From snakes to ducks. Open, and a call in the big blind with the two deuces. Jack 9-5, check to the razor, check back. Set on the turn, baby. Boom. How do we play it? What do we do? What's your framework here?
My framework here is, this is a turn pro opportunity after the PFR missed his C-bet. So this isn't, I can't go mad on this node, but what I do is I play strong value and some, I would say, stronger draws. I would overbet on this node. Mm-hmm. This is a dry node. It doesn't change things much at all. It's as blank a card, I guess, as there could be. So I think this is an overbet for me. With whatever range, as I said, quite a relatively strict range.
Mm-hmm. Polarized selective range. Yeah. We have a nut advantage from the flop. Sorry, say that again.
I can't say polarized.
You can say polarized here because it's completely accurate and you've put thought into it. What you can't say is just randomly say polarized. Okay, I did say last time polarized was banned from your vocabulary, so let's just go with that. No, you can't say polarized. So you have to actually articulate what that means instead of just using it as a buzzword to fill space. Good. So yeah, we gain a nut advantage, not a range advantage. I think, audience, you out there, yes you, listen. There's a difference between range advantage and nut advantage. Range advantage is about the overall equity versus equity picture of the two ranges, while nut advantage is about who has more very high EV combos at the top. And villain doesn't give you a range advantage when he checks back flop here. This is a very common confusion and fallacy. He actually gives you a nut advantage, which means that although your range is still suffering like it was on the flop, because as we know from Carrot Poker School Grade 2 Lecture 1, when people check back, their range remains decent in equity, right? They move towards the middle, not towards the extremities. When they check back, they condense. It doesn't decrease equity. It does decrease nut prevalence. We have a nut advantage, but we don't have a range advantage. that means that we bet big and we bet infrequently, i.e. selectively or very polarized, hyper polarized here. So this is fine. Okay, that's the theory. Done. Do we just move on, or do we talk exploitatively? As you get stronger as a player, we need to start thinking about how to blend theory with practice more. Maybe we say, oh yeah, your theory is really good here, but so what? Like, that's not what poker's all about. Poker's about finding the best line in every opportunity as well. So given that people, well, correct me if I'm wrong here. Tell me if you agree. People don't check back the flop with the same range that a solver checks back the flop in general in this pool. It's 50 NL iPoker. People don't play the same check behind range as a solver.
Yeah, this is a solid reg, I would say.
Doesn't matter. Still an idiot.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I mean, he's still going to have leaks, right? Still not going to play it
completely.
Yeah,
no, I'm not saying he doesn't have leaks, but I'm saying this is a tag 22-19.
Yeah, so let me give you my read on a 22-19 that plays iPoker 50 NL. Not very good at constructing a flop check back range. That's my read.
Maybe, yeah.
Do I know? Not maybe, like definitely, because I've taught about 800 of these guys. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I've taught about 400 of these people in the last decade. Okay, these people, these regs at these stakes, they are very bad at building a flop check back range that resembles theory at all. And while they will not be as lopsided as a fish would be here, you're falling into the trap here of giving these guys credit for being like really strong poker players, because I'll tell you what, I don't have the right check back range on the flop, and I'm fairly good at cards. In order to actually play like a solver, you have to be using real-time assistance or be like an insane end boss of theory. So most people are crooked here in some way with their range construction when they check back the flop. The direction that's going to take is that they're going to end up having too few flush draws and straight draws, too few top pair, maybe too many like 6s, 9x, and air basically. Too much like ace 4 of clubs, that sort of thing. King 4 of clubs. These hands are actually frequent c-bets, but people don't necessarily always know that. And so these are the hands that are going to swamp the check back range in the humans game. That won't happen so much in theory. Okay?
Yeah.
Are you on board with this so far?
I am, yeah, I am in general. On a side note, this guy could be a bot. Every possibility. Of
course. So let's ignore that for now, though, because most people play on sites that aren't like run by, I don't know, people who allow bots. Like most people play on like Poker Stars, and there aren't very many bots there, or maybe I don't know what I would say about the other sites, but
security isn't stellar.
Security varies from site to site, right? But most people play in games where there aren't bots, especially live. It's kind of hard for there to be a bot live. It's like, excuse me, mate, you're a bot, and the guy's like, B33 here, okay. Oh, you got me. You caught me. Good job. That doesn't happen. So we're okay. Anyways, the reason I bring some of this stuff up is that if we're right that the non-bot villains here are too air heavy, this overbet performs a lot worse than it does in theory. And checking would perform a lot better than it does in theory. Are you allowed to check this hand in theory, yes or no? What do you think?
Yes.
You are, because you're out of position. So where you can check raise, you don't usually have to bet. So if in theory, check raise and bet have the same EV as plans, check raise is a plan, not a line, do we have a reason to now deviate? And I think we do. For two reasons. Yeah. One, villain is too weak here for overbet to retain the same EV. And because villain is weak, check is going to be dependent on their bet frequency. And I'm going to hit you with another one of my crazy theories now. These people, meaning average Joe Bloggs reg 50 NL player on iPoker, like betting the second time when checked to with air. They can't resist multiple checks that frequently. They're very likely to delayed c-bet the king 6 if they didn't bet it on the flop. A lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time. I think check here will overperform. I think you will face a bet more often than you will in theory. And I think overbet particularly will underperform. So if you want to build a killer strategy as we do in cash injection, the exploitative rule-based course designed to boost your win rate without you having to do much, check out in Carrot Corner, then you need to make sure to build such a strategy that you are betting big with your bluffs here, like applying a ton of pressure, overbetting gutters, maybe even overbetting hands that GTO wouldn't want to overbet as a bluff, but then check raising your nutted value. That's what you've got to do to maximize here. Yeah. You've got to be a reverse player. You've got to be passive with good stuff and aggressive with bad stuff. That's the way to play against an air-heavy range or a range that's too weak.
Yeah, 100%. And if I don't know if you have the stats open on this guy, but he probes 80%, and I didn't put it together in game. You're 100% right. This guy is going to, more often than not, he's going to bet if I check again.
Well, I didn't say that. I said that pool would, and there could be exceptions.
Yeah, no, but this guy is almost guaranteed to.
So that's your read, right? That's not my read.
Yeah.
My read is that most humans fit that mold, but your read is that this guy is even more on that extreme end of the spectrum that they're going to bet when checked to. So it's a bit weird in that doing something normal that's Carrot Poker School approved, that's theory approved, is actually a mistake against humans in this spot. It's kind of harsh, isn't it? But this is the beauty of poker, because if you didn't have this special way of gaining extra EV, your scope for being a winning player would be really stunted. You know, if you could just if you just had to copy GTO and everyone else was doing the same thing. But don't give them too much credit. That's something, a mental game thing that I think's come up there. Just because they're a solid reg, it doesn't mean they're playing like a solver. They're still unbalanced. Even really good players that I play against at 200 Zoom are unbalanced in some ways. It's hard to be a solver unless you're a bot. And even then, you might be a different kind of bot that doesn't follow GTO. The best kind of bots probably are exploitative ones. All right, open, 9-6 of spades. Let's put the HUD on for us and we'll tell the audience what it says. Villain is 21-16 reg. Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, let me hit you. Let's do more exploitative stuff today.
Yeah.
Let me hit you with another supposition. People bet too much when check to on the flop in position. Agreed?
100%.
In theory, 9-6 of spades on this board is optional, mandatory, or prohibited as a bet. Which one?
I would say it's optional.
Absolutely. And I think it would be quite high frequency, because Queen 10-4 is a board you could probably just range bet. Really high frequency c-bet board. This hand should bet more than it should check. So by checking, pure here, maybe you're mixing, I don't know. But if you're just checking here, then we need to explore that, like why that's happening. So first off, did you like roll an RNG here or not? Do you remember?
I didn't, no.
Okay, so you're always checking at this point in time with this hand. So you've deviated from GTO.
Yeah, I deviated, yeah.
Why did you deviate? Was it just accidental? Was it laziness? Was it...
I think it was laziness. I may have been distracted on this hand.
There are lots of things in life and on your computer screen that can distract you. I know you get those, you run like Windows 98 and you get those weird pop-up things from those weird websites you go to and stuff, so probably it's that. Just kidding, guys. Mark's not that much of a boomer. So 9-6 of spades, we should bet a lot in theory, if not always. In practice, because we know that humans bet too much here, our check EV is worse than it is in theory. Agreed? Our check EV has gone down.
Yeah.
Our bet EV is not worse than it is in theory because people fold a lot here. Therefore, we should bet. Even if they don't overfold or under raise, and I think they do both of those things, I do think that they raise not enough here, and I think that they fold too much here. Even if that wasn't true, just because check has got worse because we face a stab a lot, that's already reason to bet. You make another mistake here by checking. You can play the most natural way ever and underperform relative to the highest EV line in terms of true EV. Haven't done that this year at all in a video, so I thought I would throw one in. So yeah, your true EV for the last hand, you need to check the turn, and now you need to bet the flop. But the same pattern is there, that against these kind of average poker players at 50 NL that aren't really end bosses or solvers, it's good to be aggressive out of position with your bad hands and be a bit more passive with your good hands. That's a pattern that you can apply on flops and turns in quite a lot of spots. Not all spots, but in quite a lot of spots, you can overprotect your checking range, throwing better hands into it, check raising a lot, and underprotect your betting range. This is a cash injection exploit. I'm giving you 1/10 of a course that costs £100 for free, guys. I just gave you 10 quid. I just gave you a tenner, as we would say in the UK, for free. To get the other 90 quid, go to carrotcorner.com and pick up cash injection. The irony is that it'll cost you 100 quid now to get 90 quid's worth of exploits because you already got 10 for free. So it's the same thing. I'm clever that way. Anyways, we do check. He checks back. Optional, mandatory, or prohibited?
Optional.
Optional, yeah, I agree. And again, I think that you need to be a bit careful here because villain is probably too weak when they check back flop. Maybe not too weak, but certainly like too capped, I would think. And again, you might do better by betting a third here or something than by checking. So I think you could say this is now a hand you just want to bluff, because I think check is maybe worse now. Again, I think if they haven't bluffed flop, they're going to bluff turn a lot here. That would be my idea. They check back, we hit the 9 on the river, so we definitely don't. We would have bluffed, right, if we hadn't hit that.
I did intend to bluff on the river. I'm not just saying that, but that was kind of how I wanted to play that.
But you can bluff earlier, right? We shouldn't be waiting till the river all the time to bluff these hands. And then we hit the 9 and we check. I think when you hit the 9, you want to be conscious that you are blind versus blind. There's a very wide range spot, so what could maybe be an option here on the river? Block, yeah. Really small value bet could be a good idea. I think check is maybe better though, because I think if they've waited to now and they haven't bluffed, they may well bluff like ace 3 and things like that. It depends on the player, but against some people, you'll definitely, against this guy who doesn't even value bet jack 10, this check is golden. because your villain has blundered horrifically here by not value betting second pair by this point. This is so bad, actually. And this is why when you sit there and say, oh, well, these are solid regs, you know, these are good players. It's like, yeah, they're better than the absolute drooling numbskull baboons that you're playing against, but they're not much more evolved than a baboon, really. Like, they're just a little bit of an upgrade, maybe a chimpanzee or something like that, you know, but they're not like fully functional tough regs, not by any stretch of the imagination, right? So I'm not trying to be a total asshole here. I'm not trying to shit on people and say that everyone's bad, but compared to the solver and the theory that you've studied, these people are bad compared to that, you know, they're very far from that. That's the point. So yeah, that is your old passivity kind of leak rearing its head somewhat there, I would say. Need to be a bit careful. Okay, so this is a peculiar open size by villain here, 4x in the cutoff. We decide to 3-bet 10s. Any thoughts just initially? I don't want to spend loads of time on pre-flop, you know, dwelling on it, but any thoughts on how we would choose between 3-betting and calling here?
I think it's probably close to the bottom of my 3-bet range versus cutoff. The bottom of my value range. I don't think I would be 3-betting 9s. Yeah, I think 10s is the bottom of my range. So this is probably close to 0 EV.
Okay, it's close to the EV of calling. It's not close to 0 EV.
Calling, yeah.
Folding is 0 EV. It's not close to folding. It's clearly plus EV, but it's close. It's calling and 3-betting should be similar. That's the thing. Against a fish that 4x's, do we want to like prefer one line to another?
Maybe call is better.
Maybe, but then also if we 3-bet, okay, so let's say two things. One, the 3-bet is thinner against this sizing than it is against like a 2x open from a reg. The hand is lower equity, so it's thinner. On the plus side, we're not going to get 4-bet bluffed, so we can 3-bet fold here. On the downside, that does involve squandering equity against ace king sometimes, but I think you can just 3-bet fold here. I think it's okay. I'm not really too sure what's better against this. I think both are okay. We face half pot or third pot, actually, a bit close to the third pot. And yeah, I think it's a bit miserable, but with the spade, you're going to have to peel with the 10 of spades here for these pot odds. Check, check, ace of diamonds, river. Take it away, Mark. Your thought process, please.
I felt that I was in river blunder theorem spot.
Can you explain that for the audience, please? River blunder theorem.
Yeah, it's where your range is strengthened at some point in the hand, and if you don't have showdown value and you get checked to on the river, or there's an opportunity to bet on the river, your range is so strong that you should be bluffing all your non-showdown value.
Yeah.
And I think in a 3-bet pot, like 10s may have some showdown value, but I think it's relatively little. And I think having the spade, having the 10 that obviously blocks 10 jack, I think the EV of betting here is better than the EV of checking.
We should touch on sizing as well, because betting could mean a third, it could mean 75, it could mean go all in. Again, this is like, if you watched last week's episode, guys, you will have seen a hand that came up where we had 4s on the flop and we peeled the flop c-bet. And by the river, we had like no showdown value. We had like the bottom of our range, but we had this flush blocker, but that wasn't really what was important. What was important is that we thought that the population was really capped after they checked back on the turn. And we think that here as well. So villain is going to have 2-pair, 1-pair, hands like this a lot. They're rarely going to have a flush, especially when we have the 10 of spades and especially when they didn't bet the turn. And I think we have a ton of fold equity here against like the mergy better stuff, like the set, the 2-pair, the 1-pair, the king jack, the queen jack, the ace jack, the queen 10, the king 10, the ace 10. There's just so many hands here we lose to that we'll never dream of calling an all-in. All-in is printing in the spot. All-in is so good here. It's by far the best sizing. I don't think betting 3/4 pot can be better here, because what you want to do is kind of pick a size where there's a jump in fold equity, and when villain's range is capped, the big jump in fold equity normally comes towards the overbet region, like just a bit over pot, something like that. So this is perfect, you know, just jamming here. I wouldn't leave any money on the table. I would just ship.
Yeah, I think I did B75. So.
Okay, yeah, so at least you bluffed. So I'm happy that you bluffed here, first off, but I don't think there's a reason not to just go for all of the potatoes here, because villain will have a sub-range that's kind of sensitive to sizing. Like he's going to have some ace king. He's a weaker player, doesn't jam that pre. He's going to have some ace queen. He's going to have some set sometimes. I mean, okay, the sizing is definitely fine too. I just think you do it even better here with the overbet probably. But yeah, it's really great that you bluffed. Listen, the EV difference between betting this sizing and jamming is not very big, but it would be a big disaster here if you were to check in a spot where your range was super strong, where you'd filtered your range and you really don't have any air at all. and this is the bottom of it with a good blocker against the capped range that's probably overfolding. If you don't bluff with all of those things being in place, then we have like a classic you're never going to win at poker, Mark, if you play this way kind of moment where I like flip out and lose my mind. But let me give you my final parting words, Mark, because I know that we're reaching the end of this video now and we're reaching the end of this series. We will see you in a month or two and we will see how you've done, and that'll be like the finale. But this is the sort of interlude before the finale, and I want to say, I don't know if you remember when we first started, but how regular was it that I looked at the camera, said some really harsh words for the clickbait, and tore you to shreds? Like, how regular was that?
It was very regular.
How unshredded have you been in the last 2 episodes? How intact has your human form been from my wrath?
Pretty good. It's
pretty
you've
intact.
sort of confirmed a lot of yeah, my thoughts have been very much aligned with what you're saying. So
exactly. Even though we just have a graph that's gone from losing to break even, like we have a break even graph now that's starting to show signs of maybe winning. The reason I can tell that you're probably a winning player in this pool now, if you keep your mental game together and don't regress in the ways that you outlined at the start of this video, in those dangerous ways, is that I can see your logic beginning to look like that of a really skilled, sort of competent poker player. Not in every spot, and there's still some stuff left to be desired. There's still some passivity there where it shouldn't be. But man, what a journey, guys. If you need a reminder of what Mark used to be like, go back and check out like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. I mean, you could even do that, Mark. Go back and look at your former self and get that lovely relief that that's no longer you, because my God, we were so passive. We were so sticky. We weren't hand reading at all. And we were just basically playing like a fish. And now we're playing like a seasoned poker player. It's been night and day. So if you've enjoyed this series, guys, leave me a like, leave us a comment, let us know what you thought. And guess what? A new student is going to be coming on to the show. It's not going to be called From Losing to Cruising. It'll have another snappy, rhymey title. Ideas in the comments. And we're going to give Mark a break, some space to go off and use his trade now, use his skills, come back with a nice winning graph in a few months' time in the spring to show you guys 2023. And we'll get another student on board in the meantime and have another journey from the very beginning to where we are now. Mark, I hope you've enjoyed it. How have you found the experience? Would you recommend it to other people watching this to apply for this?
Yeah, Pete, I've said it. I think I've said it a few times in comments. It's been an absolute privilege for me. I feel very privileged to have had the opportunity to do this. So I want to say big, huge thanks to you. I'm looking forward to coming back at some point and sharing hopefully what is the winning graph. I might do some Twitch streaming over the next while as well to keep in touch with folks. So yeah, listen, I want to say a really big thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll obviously keep in touch. We won't lose.
Of course.
Looking forward to the journey.
Yeah, you've been amazing, mate. You've been so good for the audience to watch as well. You've had so much genuine personability, likability, charisma all the way through, and it's the reason why these videos have performed, you know, on average better than any other thing that I've done. It's partly down to you as well. It's largely down to you, actually, so great job. And you don't even have to thank me as if I've done you a favor, because it's been a mutual thing where the content we've created has hopefully helped a bunch of people watching and help the channel, and I'm happy to promote your own Twitch and YouTubes whenever you make them and start producing content. And of course, if you want to come on Carrot Corner Twitch channel, we can do that too. I'll let you go. I know you've got kids to collect from school and stuff like that, but yeah, all the best. Keep in touch and we'll check in with you in about 2 months' time and see how From Losing to Cruising has concluded. Best of luck, Mark. See you next time.
Thanks, Pete.
Bye, guys.